بإسلامي وإيماني أضاء الكون وزمن بإسلامي وإيماني أضاء الكون وزمن.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. We thank Allah for giving us the opportunity to meet again after a very long time. I can't remember the last time we had a discussion, but I'm sure it's been a while. We have to thank Allah for this opportunity. A lot of people have died within that period. A lot of people have, maybe lost their iman. A lot of people have, whatever has happened to a lot of people. But alhamdulillah, we are still here. We are still Muslims and we are still believers. And there's really no blessing as compared to being alive and being a believer. And we thank Allah for that, and we pray to Allah to make us of those who are continuously steadfast on the path of righteousness. So today, inshallah, we are going to be talking about hijab and hijab. So this topic was kind of like motivated by something that happened some time back. So we had this hijab issues in Nigeria where some schools, or there was this case that they took some hijab case to courts, and then the courts kind of gave the verdict that hijab was allowed in a lot of schools, or in some schools in some places. But there was now this uproar from the whole community, maybe the people that are not Muslims. And I think some Muslims also, had this kind of uproar too, that what's all this hijab thing, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. We call them Muslims anyways, but so that's like the whole story behind the whole hijab thing, and that's part of the reason why we are talking about hijab today. So today we are just going to be discussing what hijab is, maybe not from a very technical point of view, as those very technical things are meant for scholars and and the likes. But we are going to just be talking about it from a more generic point of view, and maybe we are not going to be going in very details as far rulings and all those things. Yeah. So that's what the whole discussion is going to be about. Sorry for the long intro. So anyways, let's get started in this. So I just want us to start this session by maybe sharing some of our experiences during the whole uproar. What were some of the things we heard, and what were some of the things that we felt like, is this really happening? Why should this be happening? This is happening, and stuff like that. Maybe you can just share a little bit of, more like you're sharing a background on this discussion as well, a personal background. Hassan, bismillah.
No. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So basically, with regards to the occurrence, because at that particular time, I think I took a break from social media. I have always claimed to take a break from social media. It's a lie, but it's a break to me. But most times, anytime I see anything trending, that is Islam, hijab, the prophet, I would likely not try to touch it at all, for very, very weird reasons that I believe a lot of Muslims can relate to. If it's out of my sight, I most likely will not admit it inside of my head. I'm not vexed about somebody that lives in India or somewhere, and I'll live my life in a happy way. So, but this particular one kind of crept into WhatsApp, and I think it was a fight between like, okay, should people be allowed to wear hijab in schools? Now, because I went to a Baptist school too growing up, there is this sense of baptism, if that's a word itself, in the schools. Like they tend to try to relate to the concept of their forefathers, if anything like that exists. So even though it's a government school, they will tell you it is a Baptist school. And at that time, we were not even able to have places to do Salah. MSSN, they must not catch you doing it. Or even if they do, they will know conventional Yoruba anti-religiosity kicks in. So I think the whole point was that, okay, these are Christian schools by name, sponsored by a secular government, but they are Christian school by name, and because they are Christian school by names, you have to go by the name. And what, to keep this short, of all of the crazy thing that happened there, the biggest thing was that people had the mind to go against the order of a government. That shows that I think the decay that we're talking about in our society is actually deeper than we think. It means that if the government is just there and we just agree whatever, whenever we want to agree to whatever they are saying. And we all know that from a very, very level-headed perspective and constitutionally, so everyone should be able to do whatever they do with religiousness, at least in our constitution. But fortunately, no, if we don't want it like that, you should not be able to. It's very, very crazy, very painful, because I had no power to change it. I just left it alone, muted the people that shared it, and then today we are here again. So that's my little experience with it, and I hope I never have to do such things again. I'm sorry if this is too long.
Well, that's a really, really fantastic introduction. And yeah, I think I picked up a couple of things from what you said. You said a lot of people, were talking about it. And another thing that I've noticed about those issues, just like you said, you try to avoid them. I also try to avoid those things. A lot of people that talk about these things are very, very ignorant. Very, very ignorant. The basic understanding of what they are even trying to talk about, they don't even know. So you get. So it's a very, very big problem. I mean, social media is filled with a lot of those people. Some days back, I was sharing on my status that when you try to discuss things with some people, you can't even have intellectual discussions with them. They are always sentimental. It's either they are saying they are basing their arguments on emotions, or they are basing their arguments on things that are not even, pertaining to the kind of discussion you're having with them. So I think aside from the absence of that intellectual balance, I think the knowledge itself is very, very lacking in the social media space. There are a lot of people, they just say things. What do you know? Nothing. But you say things. And I mean, nobody can stop them from saying things because it's social media, right? Anybody can say anything. Yeah, so that's the first thing I picked from what you said. Another thing that you said that I think maybe you don't know about is, aside from those schools that have Christian names as Christian schools, there are schools that don't have Christian names as Christian schools, but they still force that Christianity on people. So I went to Obafemi University Staff School. Obafemi Awolowo University Staff School. That was my primary school, right? That's supposed to be like a state school, right? But guess what? Every single day in school, we used to have like this assembly of, you know what it is, right? Assembly of Guinea. And it was every day it was Christian assembly. And the Muslim students never really mattered. I mean, we never really mattered. I think at some point they started doing Friday Muslim this thing, but imagine 4 days for those people that are Christians, and you just give 1 day for Muslim. I don't even try. I mean, I didn't really get this, and that's cool. I just want to repeat this. That school is not. I mean, it's not a Christian school, but that's what they do. And the day a Muslim now goes there and becomes the headmaster or headmistress, and the Muslim tries to, switch things over, that's when you start to hear noise. You probably don't know about this, right? But that's when you start hearing that noise. That ooh, ah. I mean, that's how they're always making noise. So it's that part too. I mean, based on what you said, it's really, really pathetic. It's sad.
If I can add something before we go deep enough, I think at least for the good of the one that is listening and does not even understand what hijab is, what the concept is about, I will love if someone can just, okay, what's that hijab? What is the use? Why do we wear it? Because to be frank, these people, like you said, they are grossly misinformed. Even there's talk fact. Even Muslims are grossly, some of them are grossly misinformed. They'll tell you hijab is an Arabian headgear. And well, what in God's name are you saying? So at least just to make sure that people that are listening to this, they don't rant, because we will not be able to hear them when they do it. Maybe Rukoya or Abdullah, let either of them let them just say, okay, what is hijab? And okay, what is the concept of hijab? Maybe in just few sentences. And from that point, we can now go deep into the social and psycho-structural thing that is wrong with us as a society, and maybe the way that we can even battle it. Because, like I said, I have a lot of stuff to say, but let me calm down now.
Interesting.
Calm down.
All right, does Abdullah want
Yeah,
to?
Abdullah.
I'll pass the definition and explanation on hijab to Koya. But the only thing I want to say is that even though we might put a lot of blame on others, we still have a lot to do on ourselves as Muslims too. So I think we grew up being taught to keep silent, to be tolerant. Tolerance is good, but you should know when to ask for your rights. So another thing is that most of us grew up being told what to do without knowing why we do it, right? So when people challenge us, we just keep short. So one of the issues that we had growing up in primary school or in secondary school is this assembly of 18, for example. Muslims would be called to come and make prayer on the assembly ground, and we'll be pushing ourselves. No one would want to come out, particularly in government schools, if you want to go to government schools like me. So, but if they call Christians, you can almost call every single Christian and they would make prayer, whether they memorized it, whether they are just good in it, right? True. So because we don't have confidence in what we do, right? We are not convinced that this is the right way. Right? I mean, we can go about putting blame on others, but if we don't fix ourselves first, it's difficult to fix others. So we need to cultivate the habit of ourselves, our kids, putting the confidence that you are on the right path. Learn more, read more, acquire more knowledge to know that what you are doing, you are not just doing it because your parents were doing it or because your society are doing it, but because this is the right way and this is what Allah asks us to do and this is what His Prophet asks us to do. So when we go that confidence, we will be able to speak up, ask for our rights. Like a simple example, because I don't want to spend too long. This is probably not so relevant, but a simple personal example, for example, when my wife was going to use niqab, you would not believe that there are some people in our family, not our parents directly, that thought they will never be able to see her again, even women. You get, that's like, there is no knowledge outside there. So it's our responsibility to enlighten people. We should not just blame people. We need to enlighten people to know. Like women, like literally every Muslim woman can see every other Muslim woman without niqab, right? Now, talk less of someone in her family thinking she would never be able to see her again just because she's going to use makeup. So if we just flare up because of that and start, blaming her, hey, that's why I feel I love hijab. Whereas she just didn't know. She didn't know she could still be responsible for the family. She could still come to their functions. She would still have something to donate. It's not like she would just become someone that you are going to like lock up inside the house and never go out again. So yeah, we need to fix ourselves by growing our confidence in ourselves, in our kids, right? Even in our parents, and arming ourselves with knowledge and empathy to enlighten people. Yeah.
MashaAllah, that's a really fantastic, comment. Yeah, but I think we will have to come back to that. So maybe Rukoya should probably go and give us some more detailed definition of hijab. Bismillah.
Okay, so I think I would be more comfortable if a brother does it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a very long article about hijab. This article was motivated because I was going to talk to my wife on it and I needed to prepare enough evidence. I knew it, but I needed to have it done to explain and all of this. So if you permit me, I think there are like just 3 or 4 stages to hijab.
All right.
For me, okay. So like there are like 3 to 4 stages to hijab for Muslim women. There are hijab for Muslim men too, in case anyone does not know, but the topic here is for Muslim men, but there are hijab for Muslim men. So, but for Muslim women, there are 3 stages. The first stage is that Muslim women are, it's preferable that they should stay in their homes. It's preferable that they should stay in their homes. That's like the highest level, right? So it's not that they can go out, but what is most preferable, even up to the extent of where you want to pray. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam let us know that praying inside your room is better than praying inside your sitting room. And that is better than praying inside the masjid.
That's for women,
even though, exactly, just for women. Even though there might be reason for you, and at times it might be better for you to pray inside the masjid than inside your home. But primarily, what is better is to be at your home. That's why Allah says, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. stay in your houses, right? So then if you want to go, that's like the first step, right? That's what is most preferable. Now, there is definitely necessities to go out. You can't run away from not going out unless you are crippled or whatever. You need to visit your friends. You need to go to Juma if there is need for that. You need to go and all of those. You will need to go out. Now, when you want to go out, the secondary stage is to avoid intermixing, right? To go out with bashfulness. Whether you're on hijab, you're not on hijab, the second degree is you should have a certain degree of bashfulness. Even before hijab was legislated, this has been there. Look at the story of the people Musa alayhi salam, Moses, that they call Moses, met in Surah Al-Qasas, right? So the women she met, there was no hijab at this time. So he got to Madian, he saw a lot of people watering their animals at the river, right, or at the sea. Then he saw two women standing aside. So, and he was like, what's the problem? Why are you not watering your animals? You know what they said? They said, we need to wait. We will wait till these people leave because those were males. Then when these people leave, we will water our own animals. And they added a clause, and because our father is very old. That means if their father were not old, they will not be there doing that in the first place. It would have been the responsibility of their father to do that. But because they need to do that, they still avoid intermixing with other people. They stay aside until others are done. That's bashfulness, right? So even Prophet Musa alayhi salam ended up helping them to do it. And even when the father later sent one of them to come and meet Musa, Allah says in the Quran that she was walking ala stihya with bashfulness, right? So then the third degree of hijab is now, we mentioned the first degree, which is preferable to stay at home. Second degree, you should have bashfulness when you go out, right? In the way you talk, in the way you speak, in the way you dress, in the way you mix with people, right? Then the third degree is now what you actually put on, right? So what you put on, what is clear, there are a lot of nuances, to be honest. But what is most clear is what Allah says in the Quran, that Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu kulli azwajika wa banatika wa nisa'il mu'minin yudnina alayhinna min jalabibihin. That the Prophet tell your wife, wabanatik, your daughters, and the women of the believers. This is for the believers. This is not for non-believers. That they should wear a flowing garment over their body. So there are a lot of explanation by scholars of Islam and Sahaba, Abdullah ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Masud. Those are like deep stuff. But what is like most clear is that a hijab comes from the top of your head and it goes all the way down. That is the primary, that's what's most clear. There are a lot of nuances, okay, can it be done like this, can it be done like this? But what is most clear is it comes from the top and it goes all the way down. It covers the entire body because the entire body of women is awra. The awra means, what is the English of awra? It's not private parts, but it's like the equivalent of that, right? It's private in essence. So it's private to her and her people. She can show some of them to some specific people, like her families, but she can't show it to a stranger. In Islam, we call people that she can show that to, we call them mahram, right? We say a mahram. So our father, mother, husband, brother, there are like a lot of people. It's not like she can't show it to anyone. No. So, but she can't show it to strangers, people that are not part of our mahram, right? So maharim, part of our maharim. So, and the last degree is the niqab. So the last degree is niqab. What is most preferable in Islam, and it's part of our sunnah, is if there is no difficulty for you not to use it, it's best to use it. Right? That's like, I'm saying primarily, I'm not saying, okay, nuances, all of that. Primarily, what is most preferable, you should use it. Even all the scholars of Islam say, unless there is a need to not use it, then you should use it. Even people that put exception, you can open it, you can do this, you can do this. They still hold on to primarily what is best. If you can do it, is to cover it. Right? So those are like the 4 stages. And if you like want to know more, maybe we can get to talk about some, or you might want to study some other. The problem about studying on the internet though is you find a lot of dirty articles packaged like it's very deep and nuanced and from knowledge perspective. So I would rather advise anyone listening to this to look for a respected Muslim that you can trust. You can trust what he say, right? a respected scholar.
Okay.
Exactly. If you go to a Muslim, that's why I said a respected Muslim you can talk. If you come to me and I can't explain to you, I will take you to someone that can explain to you.
Oh,
I will not explain out of ignorance. Right? Look for someone that even you yourself being a non-Muslim or being a Muslim, you observe that this person is very dutiful to his religion. He prays, he dresses well, he's trustworthy, he has, So if you go to that kind of person and you want that kind of person to explain to you, it will be better than going around and Googling and becoming Google scholar. So yeah.
Google.
They could even use the Quran. Like it's very much stated in the Quran and
exactly.
So
no.
You can read tafsir of
that was really
yes.
On any of those tafsir for. There are like some ayahs. If you check 353. So if you check 353, Ahzab, you can check the this is like the first incidence of hijab before all the other ayats that are very clear. So this was actually due to something that happened to the Prophet himself after he married one of his wives, right? So you can check 3353 and check the explanation of the ayah. And there is 2431, that's Surah to know. Right, 2431. This explains the male part and the female part. So it goes beyond the dressing, lowering of gaze, who can see you, who cannot see you. So you can check these verses and you can check some other verses on that. And yeah.
Now that's a really broad.
Yeah, I think that was quite.
It was short and concise, anyways.
Yes, it was. So many of the Sharia aspect, or let me say the main thing, like the main Sharia aspect that have been spoken about, and I mean like the verses of the Quran have been mentioned, which is like the first source, and then there are also like hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about the hijab generally. So, but I don't think there is really much I can talk about when it comes to the legislations, but because they've already been mentioned, except maybe to just add that there are actually conditions to the physical hijab, which is like the dressing now. So there are conditions to it in that it should not be transparent. It shouldn't be something that is light or something that is very, very brightly colored, such that it attracts attention. It shouldn't look like the dressing of the males. Like there are stuff like that about it. And then it shouldn't have maybe like adornments on it, like maybe putting pearls and all of those stuff, such that it attracts, or let me say it calls attention and all of that. But I think for many females, hijab is something I really like to talk about, because like a lot of people are always like okay, they when they hear some people's name, I mean some Muslim women's name, maybe on account of something that they've done and they've not seen the person, like they still hold the person in high esteem. But then when they've discovered that, oh, this is the face behind the name and is a face that is covered, or it is a face that uses the hijab and all of that, then immediately they just kind of, the bias sets in, the stereotype sets in, and then you begin to be called a lot of names. So like, I think one thing I really like this discussion to really focus on as well is how sisters can actually, how will I put it, how sisters that are looking to adorn the correct hijab can do it, how they can be aware of some of the difficulties they may face, how they can shield themselves against such difficulties, and maybe we can also touch on the social aspects and how it affects us, how we can like propagate it even beyond this generation and all of that. I think I really want us to even focus on that as well. So
yeah, so let's get into it. I think we should probably start with the difficulties. So or how to start with the hijab. So maybe you can start with that, or but I also want to say that there is no one size fits all approach. The approach required by mentioning might work directly for her. So maybe you also try to make it as generic as possible. Yeah. Even though you might be specific with your own experience, but still try to make it as generic as possible.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So I feel like for any Muslimah, I think, and this relates to not just the hijab, but most likely every other thing that we want to do. So I feel like for people, when you want to start to do something, there's this model that I like to always try to explain to people about how to like do something in probably like the best of ways to do it. And that's like you knowing why you want to do that thing or why that thing even exists in the first place. So you have to like start with the reason why something is happening or the reason why you want to do something. And then from there, you go to what exactly that thing is in all its embodiments. Then you can now start looking for, okay, how do I now do this thing, or how do I start to like implement it? So in generally there's this model they call it, I think the golden circle or something that they call it. So it's like the why is like a lot of people know how they want to do what they want to do, and even a smaller percentage know what exactly, like, okay, a lot of people know what they are doing, and a lower percentage knows how they are going to do that thing. Or wait, I hope I'm not even mixing it up now. So like it's like a lot of people actually know what exactly they are doing, but a lower percentage know how they are doing that thing or how they are supposed to be doing it in the best of ways. And even smaller percentage knows the reason why they're even doing what they're even doing. Yeah. And I think that that's a lot of problem. Like it causes a lot of problems most times. Yeah. So, and it really touches on some of the things that I've mentioned before, the fact that we don't have confidence in what we are doing, the fact that we don't like, we relegate ourselves to the background most of the time. The problem is from the roots, and it's because we don't know why we are doing what we are doing, or why the things we are supposed to be doing, why they're even supposed to be done. So I feel like for a Muslimah, firstly, you hear about the hijab, you're a Muslim, you've gotten to the age of puberty, and you see people using the hijab, and you don't even understand why they are even trying to use it or why they are even using it. I feel like the first thing any serious Muslim should do, any Muslim, and by definition, Muslim is someone that submits to Allah totally. So all of his legislations and his prohibitions, you're trying your best to follow it as best as you can. So if, as a Muslimah, if that is not your intention, then you may need to like even go back more into the basis of what a Muslim is, rather than you trying to like focus on even maybe doing something more. So firstly, you have to know why the hijab came into being, like why exactly there's something like the hijab for Muslims. And many of the reasons, or let me say in the Quran, for instance, one of the reasons is so that Muslim women can be known and be seen as free, respectable women. So free in the sense that you are beyond what society thinks. You are beyond the rules of the society. You are beyond the rules of man, but you are under the rules of Allah. So that is number one. Also, for you to be identified as someone that is dignified, that is pious, and someone that is chaste. Those are the exact reasons why Allah wanted the hijab to come into existence. And this started from like the story that Abdullah mentioned about what happened during the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, and like that was the basis of it, so that women can be dignified, so that they are respected. And that is very true. I've seen it happen in so many, like to me personally, so many times, that the way people treat you, they'll be like, no, don't disturb Alajao, and all of these things. So like it's not an honor that they give to people that don't wear the hijab, but that's on the side. Then as a Muslim, after knowing why this thing exists, then you have to like start to check on how this thing is, or let me say, yes, how it is. So, okay, how is it supposed to be done? Okay, these are the conditions and all of that. I think we are still going to like mention some of the conditions, but we already did for some. So the fact that it shouldn't be like a cloth that is too bright, a cloth that goes from head to toe, or something that just covers you from head to your toe, a cloth that isn't transparent, isn't light, isn't like something that conceals you, that keeps you away from the eyes, from piercing eyes, basically. Or let me say, yeah. So, and I think the thought should be like, okay, what exactly do I now want to decide that this thing is? Okay, so I've already know that it should be like this. So what model should I follow? Okay, I'm going to go and sew a jilbab that looks like this. I'm going to take an hijab that looks like this. I'm going to sew it in this particular way and all of that. So I feel like if a person knows why they are doing what they are doing, it keeps them going, even when they begin to see difficulties, or they begin to see something that is not so encouraging. So I feel like basically when a Muslim follow these three things, like it's like that's like a very good way to start the hijab, like your hijab journey. That's like one of the best ways that you can. And personally, that was one of the things that really helped me, because if I did not know why I was doing what I was doing, with some of the things that I faced, I probably would have become very, very discouraged by now and all of that. So basically that's just my chip on how to like start like using the hijab. At least start your hijab journey in that way, to prepare you for how the future is going to be like, especially when the difficulties set in.
That's really, I like the approach of the golden circle explanation. Yeah, explaining stuff like a scholar. I'm not saying you're not a scholar anyways. I'm stylishly saying you're a scholar. So,
I'm not a scholar.
Okay, upcoming scholar.
I pray I am. I pray I become one.
Yeah, inshallah. So, yeah, you've said a lot, and I believe that's a very concise way of,
I have a question
someone wants to get started.
On what she said.
Oh, before you ask your question, I just wanted to, mention a few things. So, based on what you said, I kind of remember some events that happened in the past. I've seen someone that the person was wearing like complete hijab, maybe not covering the face, like for the explanation of the hijab that Abdullah explained earlier. And, some things happened to the person has some issues, and at some point the person stopped wearing the hijab. At least I know like 2 different people. May Allah save us from such. But what I'm trying to emphasize here is it's really possible that they never really understood the why of the hijab. Do you get what I'm saying? Maybe they were actually wearing that hijab because of somebody. Maybe somebody was wearing it because they were at home, and then their dad, enforced them to wear the hijab, and then they got to school, and then they realized that I'm the only one wearing hijab amongst my friends, and I'm marginalized and stuff like that. So they end up, leaving the hijab. And I think it still really goes back to the explanation required here, which is that the why. The why is really, really important, because when the going gets tough, like she said, those are some of the things that really hold you, that you hold on to, and you say, yeah, this is the reason why I'm doing this, and I'm doing this for the sake of Allah. So the other thing I also wanted to mention was some weeks back, I was in Ibadan, in Oyo State, right? So some schools are already using hijab in Oyo State, but I noticed something, and I noticed this more than once. I noticed some students that were wearing hijab, or so-called hijab, right? And they had, sorry to say this, but I have to say it the way it is. They had like much shorter skirts than people that were not wearing hijab. It was just something I noticed, because when I see students and I see that, oh, these students are wearing hijab. But I don't know if any one of you has noticed this, but I noticed some of the students among a couple of other students. And the one that was wearing hijab had the shortest skirt amongst the other one, and she was the only one wearing the hijab. Can you see? It's maybe just like we said, the why. They probably don't understand why. They just know that, oh, I cover my ear. Some people think they're just covering their ear. A lot of people actually think it's just covering the ear. So you get. So that why is really, really important. It's important in the aspect of motivation and holding on to the why, and it's also important in the aspect of doing what Allah commands us to do and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to mention those 2 things just to buttress the points required as me. So Abdullah, I'll go ahead with this question.
Okay, yeah, my question kind of relates to that. And the first 2 questions actually. The first question is, in case you guys don't know, hijab is now a fashion. So just as nisfu sak is now a fashion, raising, not allowing your trousers to flow beyond for males is now fashion for men people too. So if you go to a law student, you would think they are all Like people would say, like people would say,
And even some of those law students now be sporting beards. You would not know they are Muslims.
Yeah. So, and it just like hijab, so hijab has become a version. I've seen some of my in-law family came to me recently and she wanted to say hijab for the last night that we had. And when she started describing the way she wanted to see it, I was like, do you really want to use hijab? Or you would see that she's trying to achieve something with that hijab. So, right. So my first question is, what do you think about hijab becoming version these days? Do you think people should take up hijab to do fashion too? Like people think it's cool. I don't know why they think hijab is cool as fashion. Maybe because it's not the hijab that is legislated. What do you think about people using hijab as fashion nowadays? And people encouraging people to take on hijab based on that. Then the second question is, a boy mentioned some that were putting on hijab, but their skirt was still flowing. So I think part of that problem is hijab bloggers nowadays. So people making hijab tutorial on the internet and all of those things. You would realize, I did not do any statistics, but you realize 80 to 90% of hijab models on internet. Hi, my hijab, my pride, blah, blah, blah. It's not hijab.
It's tutorial.
So do you think people that want to take up hijab, do you think people that want to take up hijab should start Googling on, or how should I tie my hijab? How to go about making the hijab? What do you recommend? If I want to know how to use the right hijab, who should I go to? Should I go to YouTube and start searching for?
Okay, so firstly, I'm going to start from the question on why people that advise people to take up the hijab because of fashion, why they do it. So sometimes I feel like it's out of ignorance. They feel, some people that say they are doing dawah, they tell people that, okay, just wear the hijab, at least you just try it. So sometimes some of them feel that, okay, if this person even tries it, even with the wrong intention, when they like it, they would, over time, they would change their intention, and at least they will be seen as someone that is wearing the hijab, even if that is counterproductive, because in the long run, something like what was mentioned before about them putting it off when they don't feel like when it's no longer serving the purpose that they wanted it for. So I feel like those that are doing that, they are doing it very wrongly. That's number one. Like, hijab shouldn't be used for fashion. Even if and hijab is like sporting all the conditions that are attached to it, it is not even like, it would be seen as something that is, it would be seen for what exactly it's supposed to be. And there's no element of fashion in it at all, because the reason why it is there is for you to cover up, like cover you or shield you away from something. So you can do whatever fashion you want to do underneath. You can use whatever adornment you want to use underneath. But if you're going outside in the presence of people that are not your mahram, as mentioned earlier, then you have to like shield yourself with something that takes even the attention away from you. So those that do that, they are very wrong for doing that. And also, the intention is everything. Right? The intention and the why for I think there's this thing I read about anything that has to do with worship is on the basis of prohibition, except what the Prophet has made an injunction on to be allowed. And then anything that has to do with maybe every other aspect of our life, and maybe things that are not necessarily like din, but let's say like something that is maybe social, then it is on the basis of it's been allowed, except when the Prophet says that, okay, this thing is haram. So for the hijab to be mentioned in the Quran really, really shows that it's an act of worship.
Right.
So the intention is one of the reasons, like one of the things that really makes it an hijab in the spiritual sense, in the physical sense, in the psychological sense. So that intention is like everything. So if the intention is not there, honestly, you're just wearing the hijab and you're not getting your reward for it. Even if you are supporting it in the best of ways. So, but if the intention is not there, wallahu alam, but if the intention is not there, because actions are judged based upon intention. So, and for the hijab tutorial thing, or let me say the hijab trending and all of that, or was that not the second question?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I feel like it's the way people realize that, okay, this is actually the truth, and this is the way to do something. And this is, okay, I just want to be a part of those that are doing this thing because they are respected and all of that. But at the same time, they're not ready to make a total sacrifice. Like, I've seen people like that, like they want to be here and they also want to be there at the same time. So how do we just oppose the two words? Let's use the hijab so that when they see us as Muslims, but at the same time, let's make our hijab be something that even people that don't use the hijab or people of the world will be very, very fascinated by. So most times that is the intention. Like, okay, how do we balance the two? We don't want to make a total, how will I put it now?
You
like,
want to eat your cake and have it.
Exactly. That's the word. So like, they want to eat their cake and they also want to have it at the same time. And I feel like sometimes there are so many other environmental pressure, maybe like from family, because I personally, I have my own story, and if it was not because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if I wanted to be looking at, okay, what would my family think about me? What would this and that? What would people that already know me the way I was before I started using the hijab, what would they think about and all of that? Probably I would not even be wearing the hijab today. So, but then the intention is like everything. And then there's this hadith, I think it's an hadith Qudsi, that whoever does something or leaves something for my sake, Allah says that He is going to facilitate something that is even better for that person. And that's basically, so whoever wants to use the hijab should know that they are doing it for the sake of Allah, and Allah is going to reward them for it. And to be honest, today, there is, like, the hijab has in no way stopped me from achieving everything I wanted to achieve. Wallahi, it even made it easier. Because sometimes people will be like, oh, wow, she's a Muslim. Wow, mashallah. And that makes me unique in a way. And they're like, okay, let us even just try something with something like with someone different and all of that. So it's even like facilitated a lot of things for me, because it's something that people are not used to. And even me myself, I'm kind of always happy to like bring it out to people, because I feel like we don't have, how will I put it, like the way the hijab is represented. Exactly. We don't have representatives, right? And those that are representing us are the hijab bloggers, those that are doing sports, and their ties and everything will be out, but they are covering the air. Like the examples of successes that people see out there that are using the hijab is what fascinates them, and they feel like, okay, wow, this person is using the hijab, and at the same time, mashallah, look at the way our worldly affairs are going and all of that. And then they get fascinated by that, and they feel like, okay, for me to also be able to like achieve something like this, I think it's okay if I just make my hijab this way. Because you don't even see people out there that are using the right hijab and then they are like classical and all of that. And that's one of the reasons why I like Naima Roberts. She's, in fact, the way she writes, she does a lot of seminars for people that are so very, very beneficial. And I'm sure today that a lot of people have learned more about the hijab, even just from looking at her. So she's like representative on her own, and such examples are not common. So for the second, I think one of the questions also was that if I want to start using the hijab, what do I do? Fine. They are, how will I put it now? Number one, you go to the Quran, read the Quran. There are verses on the on the Quran, in the Quran, about what the hijab is. Look at the tafsir for it. If you don't find an example in your area or in your environment, I'm sure there is a masjid around, or at least, and I think the way, in fact, the way it is now, there might be like 200 people somewhere, but at least one person will be doing the right thing. I've really noticed that thing. If you see there is just one person that is doing the right thing, or you feel like, okay, the way this person wears their hijab is like this, and it is like what you read in the Quran, that it must cover all of the body. Walk up to the person and ask them questions. Ask them, okay, why are you wearing your hijab in this way? Okay, I want to start wearing the hijab and all of that. And in fact, the way the world is like now a global community, I don't think there is anybody that is not exposed to some level of, or let me say, is not exposed to other people that are at least wearing the hijab. I don't know, I feel probably it's like an erroneous thinking, but I feel like there's no way
I agree.
exactly, there's no way you will not see someone that is wearing the hijab around you, or someone that is, at least, it might be online. At least there are so many Muslim community online. There are so many, in fact, the world is like a global village already, and so many things that you see online and all of that.
Yeah, but do you know the problem with that? Do you know the problem with that exposure? I think one of you has mentioned this earlier. The problem with that exposure is, what has Muslims themselves, what have they kind of preached hijab to be? Such that when they see somebody that is actually using the hijab, they don't call the person an extremist. Does that make sense? What have Muslims themselves seen, like, preach hijab to be? I've seen a lot of posts online, when one Muslim woman does something, they say, oh, she's using the hijab. I'm like, oh, she's using the hijab. You see a lot of those things. This person did this Muslim woman did that, this Muslim woman did that. You get the point, right? So when people now actually see somebody that is using the hijab, the question is like, it's not really a question. It's just like, why is this person being extreme? I mean, these are the extremists we are talking about. These are the local people, all sorts of things. These are the whatever. Maybe she's carrying a bomb. All those things.
Yeah.
Things, do you know those things do exist?
Yes, they do exist.
Yeah,
but that's why it's always important that's why it's always important that that journey begins from the reason.
Exactly.
And from the reason, you are going to the how.
Yeah.
Or let me say the what. Sorry, the what. Sorry. Yes. No, you're going to the how of it.
You're starting with the why.
Right, yes.
You don't need to know what you don't need to know what the
you don't know how. No. You know the how of it. The how comes before the what. Yes, because you have to know how this thing is supposed to be done before you eventually do it.
Just hold on a second. Let me explain what I'm saying. The what comes next. So you're checking, why do you need to wear the hijab? That's the first question. And then the second question is, okay, once you know why, then what is the hijab itself? Then the question that now comes after that is, okay, now I know what the hijab is. How should I wear the hijab? So that's the third question. The two questions are like very similar. They are very close to each other, but they are actually two different things. Do you understand? For example, now I can know that, okay, this is what the hijab is. The hijab is not supposed to be transparent. The hijab is not supposed to be this. The hijab is not supposed to be that. Okay, now I need to go into the real world, right? Okay, how do I actually wear the hijab in the real world? Exactly. When I want to enter a bus, how do I, wear the hijab? When I'm within people, how do I interact with people? All those kind of things.
Okay, but I think I get where you're coming from. And where you're coming from is the point of the physical hijab, like the clothing itself.
Oh, okay.
Meanwhile, the hijab is even way more than that.
Yeah.
So I'm not just talking about the physical clothing itself. I think it also embeds, the aspects. The words embeds that, right? Because when you say what is
personally, I feel like the why should come first. Okay. Then after you know why this thing was even in existence, because you want, like Allah says, that so that you can be known as free, respected women, so that you are dignified, you are known as someone that is chaste and all of that.
No.
Then I think the next thing should be like, so how should this thing be done?
Okay, all right.
Yes, I feel like, because I feel like, okay, how should this thing be done? Okay, if I want to be like this, okay, if I want to be known as something like this, how can I go about being known like this? Okay, so I have to cover all my body parts. I have to not intermingle with people, intermingle with men. I have to do this, I have to not do that. And even if I'm okay, I have to wear the physical hijab. So that is like the how now. So it's like breaking it down into steps. How to achieve it, or how to achieve adopting the hijab. Then you now go to the what. So I feel like if the how actually comes first and you already know the things to look for, by the time you put yourself out there to now taking the step to, okay, this is what I want to be wearing, or this is what I want to be doing, then you already have a template already for how you want to do it.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Let me solve the puzzle for you to solve. We don't stay too much. Okay, so okay, let's just leave that. I want to present a totally different arrangement, which is like putting the what first, which is the knowledge. then why, then how. But let's just put that aside, right? I have a comment and I have a question to Koya, right?
That's perspectives, right? That's where we have change perspective.
Yeah, I have a comment and I have a question to Koya. Do I even remember the comment? The comment is one of those ways that we can really bring knowledge to people about hijab is to bring out our identity, to be very proud of our identity, like Koya said. Wallah, I've never seen something work more than that. One of those disservices that we're doing to ourselves as Muslims, we always see ourselves as second-class citizens. We always draw ourselves back, right? Which we actually lead to one question that I have. So you see black Muslim hijabi, you don't need to, I don't know about black, but you don't need to, maybe black, but you don't need to present yourself as hijabi to get some
recognition.
I don't know, maybe, yeah, exactly. So I think we need to be very proud of our identity. I've been attending a class recently. The book is written by Ibn Taymiyyah, and there is a law of izzah of Muslims there, like the strength of Muslims. Where do our strength lie? Is it about trying to satisfy that person and that person and that person? Is it about trying to soften up our religion to be attractive to people? Is it about trying to lower down, all the regulations, or actually making clear and distinct description of what we do, why we do it, and the sense in it? And now leaving the judgment to people. People that have sense will know that, these people, they have something that is very valuable, whether they want to do it or they don't want to do it, right? So our strength lies in being proud of our identity. It's about
like being unapologetic.
Exactly. It's about that Umar said that our the strength in Izzah comes from Islam. If we were to put Islam aside, we would lose all our Izzah. So we want to share, we want to have good relationship with this. It's good to have good relationship.
Honor.
Izzah means strength.
Like is strength or honor?
Okay. Honor. It's kind of, if I would translate, it's kind of compound. I can use strength, I can use honor. Okay, you can use honor. Of contextual, right? So like honor, I would prefer honor, to be honest. No, okay. So strength feels like must be. So yeah, honor. So putting our identity up there, and this needs to be done by both men and women, right? Not just women. So I do something. It's not like I'm proud of it, alhamdulillah, right? But it's not like it's one big deal. Ever since I joined my workplace, the first, the second, the one I work now, I've never done a meeting without my cap until yesterday, actually. And because I think my caps were dirty or something. So I've never done a meeting without my caps, without my regular attire. It's not like this is Muslim attire, but like in my own area, like in the country that I live, this is mostly seen as what Muslims wear. Right? Wow. And it makes people actually get curious, like, what's that? What's that? That's, you get that way, that confidence, it will make you push it to like explain what it's about, right? Let the confidence stand straight. They are celebrating this. I don't do it. Why? Explain to them. You don't need to don't talk. Just let it slide. Assume, pretend as if you are not there. Complain, I don't do it. If they want to involve you, they don't want to involve you, fine. But if they want to involve you, get clean. Don't be silent. Like, I'll just pretend. No. People don't really care about your religion. They care about delivering at workplace, unless you are not working at a good place. And I think if people care a lot about your religion, you should probably change your workplace. What matters to people is your delivery and your relationship, to be honest. Yeah. So, we need to put that's the whole point. We need to put our identity out there. Let people know us for what we are. Don't try to pretend and try to hide. People will accept you. Allah is the one that has the Izzah. Everything that we seek from people, wallah, is with Allah. If we are to have strong, because if you drop Islam and try to do this and do that, it's like Allah make an example in Quran. It's like the similitude of someone that this one sending him on errand, that one sending him on errand, that one sending him on errand. You'll be so confused. This one tell him do this. Liberalism tell you do this. Communism tell you do this, capitalism tell you do this, right? Christianity, everybody is telling you do this, and you're just like, this life is so confused. And that's the state of highest percentage of people these days. Everybody just did that.
Identity crisis.
But Allah tells you,
yes,
exactly. But Allah tells you, do this. How can you compare one person answering to 10 people to one person answering to just one person? When we have cleared, and that's the state that we should be as Muslim. Don't be doubtful. If you are doubtful of something, go and learn about it. It's probably because you don't know much about it. If you know enough about it, you'll be very confident, even if you don't do it. Right? You'll be very confident that no, this is what my religion says. This is the sense behind it and all that. So either Muslim or Christian, we need to be very proud of our identity and push it out. Take away personally. Once now to take away personally is one of those things that Okoya said. And I think maybe that's like the most important part that I think from this discussion is that
you're already doing conclusion.
The hijab. No, I'm not doing conclusion. I want to mention the topic, like it's stuck to my brain, and I just want to like emphasize it.
All right,
like
cool.
The hijab, just like every other practice that we do in Islam, Salah, Ramadan, Zakat, it's for Allah. Like the ikhlas is important. So by the time you realize you are doing it for Allah, you would totally forget, the trending version. Should it be like this or should it be like that? Should I put this style? Will it look attractive to people? When you realize you are doing it to please Allah alone. You're not even doing it to please your husband or to
and that's where the freedom comes in. So be known as free women. There are so many times there are so many times that now I don't even need to think about the color of what I want to wear when I'm even going for a party. Like the freedom. Okay, they are picking gele, they are doing this. What's like this? You know how much money I've saved from, okay, I don't have to buy some things, I don't have to use some things, I don't have need for some things. There was one day my younger sister was like, Star Koya is like, you'll be the richest out of all of us. I was like, wait, what happened? She was like, your needs are so minimal. I don't go and do Ghana with of 6,000 naira.
All right. So, I know there was a time.
I don't have to always change my wardrobe. Like I mean, like what I wear, like inwards. Like I don't have to change my wardrobe every month or every 6 months or every 3 months. I don't have to do that. I don't have to care about, okay, is this supposed to be like this? What can I use to match these clothes? I have to wear scarf, wear top and skirts that match and
to match. They call it too much.
You know that's the benefit that a lot of people want to have, but they want to do the version part. They want to have that freedom, but they still want to eat their cake at the same time. But a funny example, there was a time myself and my wife she wanted to buy a shoe, right? And she was like, we really like the shoe. The shoe was very okay. And she was like, oh my God, this shoe will not match all the Ankara and co. I was like, What's the hijab? Yes. The time that you put up the hijab, you will not be putting on shoe by then. Right? You probably be inside the house.
It really makes
buy whatever you want to buy. Whether you put on Ankara, on canvas, nobody cares. So far your hijab. Like those are like the side pecs.
Yes, like it really makes it easy. Like, okay, sorry now.
Whether you use makeup, use makeup, all of those things are like,
exactly, it's not my business.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for instance,
there was a funny article about that actually. If I can pull it off, you would laugh to the article.
I think
how you can eat a class with the cover of this. Don't do that, no.
So please drop the article. Let's like go through it. So I wanted to say, so like this morning, for instance, but my mom was going somewhere and I wanted to like follow her up to somewhere to the road. Like I'm going to like highlight on the road. So she had already finished dressing up, right? And I've not even dressed up at all. I've not even taken my bath. I've not done anything. Like, and within 15 minutes, I was already done. She was like, my child, I'll drop you and all of that though. She just saw me coming. I said, you are done. Yeah, I'm done. So like, it's like, I'm just like, what I want to point out is like, the ease with which many of the things that Allah has ordained, as like the ease with which Allah has ordained it. Though at first it might look like this thing is wow, it looks like something that is
the wisdom, the hikmah.
Exactly, yes, that's the word. So the hikmah behind it is such that everything Allah has ordained is to make life easy for us in such a way that we are able to dedicate as much time as possible to his worship.
No.
If I want to go out and I don't have to spend too much time on how I am looking, because I already have a way I like to look because of like for Allah's sake, I don't need to spend too much time to doing these things, and that way I'm able to like let me say maximize my time more for other beneficial things. So it really makes life easy. It really makes things very, very easy. In my house, if I'm the last person that wakes up, I'm always the first person to finish whenever we are going somewhere.
Interesting.
If that's just, and it's maybe like 10-15 minutes, we are done. If there are things that needs to be bought, okay, let's say there's a party and all of that, they know me. Fine, I may buy if I want to buy, but most of the time, just tell me the color of the clothes, and then I find my jilbab and use that. And because of that, I don't feel like, okay, I'm exempted or anything. Like, it's so easy, very, very easy. And sometimes my sisters will just be like, why not then what Japanese in? I will just shake. I say, no, don't have that intention. Don't wear the hijab because of that. You have to like have the right intention when you want to wear the hijab. Don't say because I need to make life easier for you in some aspects and all of that. So you know to now start wearing the hijab. No. So that's basically what I wanted to like just chip in.
This episode was, I mean, I don't want to say was, but it has been really, really long. But alhamdulillah, I think we've been.
It's actually very interesting.
I mean, right? I have learned a lot from this episode, and I pray that each one of us is able to, implement these things in our life. And those of us that already implement it, may Allah not make us of those who, come back from from the good thing that they already doing, because that's also another reality. Just like those two examples I gave earlier. I mean, anytime I see those people, I'm always like, I would do that in a short
Taiwo has been super silent. Are you planning to start wearing hijab?
I think it's distracted by something else. Anyways, I think it's time to, conclude. Do we still need to give a conclusion, or we should just close it there? It's very long already.
Okay, so I actually have a question to throw to the guys.
Okay, all right.
So, okay, I wouldn't want us to see it as it's not controversial. It's not, but I just want it to like enlighten I don't know, people out there that will be listening to this. So if there's no answer for it now, I guess we can maybe like have it in another time or something. So what's the case of men that force their women to maybe, how will I say it? Like when it comes to the hijab, was like, what do you think about men that force their women to maybe like adorn the hijab when probably before they got married, she has like nothing was kind of like discussed in that aspect. So I'm not saying it is wrong, because it is the men are like the shepherd of their homes, like of their family, right? But at the same time, we are just opposing that with doing things for Allah's sake. So something that, okay, you want to adorn the hijab as a woman, it has to be for Allah's sake, right? So in this case, like how can we reconcile both situations? Like what do you think, or what advice would you, or what do you just think about it generally? Like, do you think it is right?
Who wants to go first? Should I go first? Abdullah is shaking his head and he's smiling. Abdullah, Bismillah.
Oh, sorry, why is Taiwo like that?
Don't mind.
you know why I need to do it with I mean, you just want to go, they go.
He's deceiving himself. Don't worry. This guy is my stand-up forward.
Yeah, that's like, wallahi, that's a very good question. Like, it's practical. Like, it's what you see daily. People turn between. Yeah, I mean, let me just answer the question as good as I can. Basically, I think it's wisdom, right? So it's wisdom that you need. People, we deceive ourselves a lot. I'll start from there. You pick someone that doesn't know anything about hijab, doesn't even know about tawhid, doesn't even know about why she's a Muslim, and you think once you marry her, because of other things that you see that's attracting you, you're going to someone to somehow convince her to, to start putting on hijab and niqab, and without any pre-talk or, all the pre-talks were like, I mean, if I say, it's just like all the pre-talk were like, you're just trying to make her marry you.
Let's say beating around the bush.
Exactly, because she would ask you that after we marry, you ask me to wear hijab. Then you start, packaging it for her. So you don't expect to marry this kind of person, and magically, she will now accept to wear hijab or niqab or whatever. So you might have to resolve to forcing her, which is like not really good, because I would be like, if you die before her, she might just put up the hijab back, right? Because she was never convinced on doing the hijab. And even if you don't do that, the kids that we brought up, which will be mostly in the care of their mother, they would not accept, they will not be convinced of what hijab is, right? Because it might not be at home most of the time, it might just be the mother. So if she's not convinced herself, even though the kids might be using hijab, they are the kind of kids that you'd be like, oh my, when we're in school, like she would wear everything down and she just enter university, bam, everything just vanished. Those are the kind of people mostly, right? Because they come from a home where the mother herself, even though she's using hijab, is because she was not convinced. So how do you go about that? Because I have interest in a sister, she's not using hijab. But I see that, this sister has some good attributes. Like if she can really accept Islam wholly, it will be really cool, right? And I want to propose the person, and I don't want her to start wearing hijab because of me. And it could actually be the case that even sister likes you, right? The sister wants you, right? But you only do the same back if she uses hijab. So how are you going to convince her to not use hijab purposely because of you? I like it, blah, blah, blah. Well, how I would have done it is that I think it's not very complicated. If I come to you, I will let you know that this is what Allah wants, and I want what Allah wants. Don't use this hijab because of me, but use the hijab because you want to follow, you want to be obedient to Allah. Please, and when you are obedient to Allah, I would love you more. Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa kunu ma'as sadiqin. Right? You want to be with the good people. So don't wear this hijab because of me. Wear it because you want to please your Lord. So that the day that will be fighting or there will be an issue, you'll not be saying, hijab you go to face me. Sure, you get. Wear it because you want to please your Lord. And when you are pleasing your Lord, you remember this hadith that when Allah loves someone, he tells Jibril to love the person. Right? Yeah. When he tells Jibril, he sent Jibril to tell people of the Sama, people of the heaven, then people of the earth, then everybody start liking the person. So you wear this hijab to please Allah. When you please Allah, Allah would find a way to bring our heart together because you want something that pleases Allah. I want something that, that's equally in the same case too. That way, there will be more connection between us. But if you wear this hijab purposely because you just want me to become attracted and propose and all of that, we will not be doing ourselves any good in the long run. Right, so that's like my humble submission.
So my own response to that question is, or is Hassan going to say anything? Hassan is busy.
It should. It should.
So I was reading the book some time back. I don't know if anyone of you has seen this book before. There was a podcast I shared about this book.
Yes.
The Ilm Feed podcast. So this is the book. I kind of got the book, and this is a very, very good book. I mean, for people that want to get married in a way. Although it may not, the cultural tone of the book might be a little bit different from the cultural tone of a Nigerian setting. But the writer also mentioned it that, there are some cultural idiosyncrasies that might be specific to some particular culture. But nevertheless, I want to just put a place on inside the book. I mean, which kind of answers the question from my own view as well. It says, marrying someone with the expectation that they will change, whether you think that you'll be able to fix them or based on their assurances that they will improve themselves, often leads to bitter disappointment. So that's what the author said in this book. And he has experience. He has had to mediate divorces. He has had to fix relationship between people. So he's a very experienced person. And I feel if a very experienced person is saying this, I mean, there must be something he has seen based on his own experience. And my own view also is, Abdullah said it all. I think Abdullah kind of nailed it, is that nobody should do that. I mean, you shouldn't marry someone that is not your spec. The other thing here is also that you can't get your spec completely. But I mean, there will be some level of correlation, maybe like 80% your spec or 70% your spec. But there are things that that this thing, I cannot, I have to have this thing, or this person has to have this thing. You shouldn't now, what's the English word for it? I can't remember the English word, right? But you shouldn't, because of some other things, now remove that thing that you really value. Do you understand? Huh? Yeah, you shouldn't settle for, I don't want to use the word less, that's not the point, right? Yeah. But you shouldn't settle for something that that this thing is not actually something that I want, and it is very, very fundamental. You understand? This thing is a very, very fundamental thing. Not that you say, when we marry, we do this, when we marry, no. I don't think brothers should do that. And to the extent that you don't have to go and force somebody to do that thing when you finally get married to the person, it's not appropriate. And just like Abdullah said, you don't know, the person might the husband might die at a point. So what happens at that point? And the person that said I should wear hijab is no more, and they just remove the hijab.
Wallah alam.
But then Allah save us, and may Allah continue to
Allah really oppose. And I think this is like, aside from the hijab, I think sometimes many men marry their wives and they have this vision for her in a way that is outside of the vision she has for herself.
No.
I don't know how.
There's something they call it.
I don't know what they call it.
Yeah, there's something they call it. I can't remember. It sounds like you're trying to fit her into the picture that is inside your head. There's something they call it. I can't remember.
Something like that.
So you already have an idea of who you want your wife to be, and then you find this person that is far from what you want your wife to be.
No, she might not even be far from it. She might even be like, okay, outward appearance may be like, okay, yes, she's okay. But when
she's going to have the same.
Sorry?
Like she's going to have the same thoughts that you have. She's the same
exactly.
Plan that you have.
So maybe some people are like, yeah, or maybe okay, you already know this person is like, is okay for me. I'm pleased with the way and everything. But you have this future projection of the things you want her to be known for. Maybe amongst your friends, that how will I put it now? Maybe you want her to maybe memorize the Quran, for instance, and then you force her to maybe like memorize so that they can say that his wife is an Hafid or some of those things. And so many of the time, some of these dreams that they have for the wife is such that they feel like, okay, if I'm lacking in the deen, I want you to, I don't know how to put it.
Make up, yeah, that's the word.
I want you to make up for it, yes. So they begin to force her to maybe do things. You must don't. If the woman is such a person that she wants to do, she would rather be doing something else. No, they want you to do this particular aspect of the deen, even though she would rather be doing another aspect of the deen. I don't know if that really makes sense. Or
that makes sense.
I agree on that 100%. And I think one of the easiest solution to that is that's why the Prophet asked us to do a lot of research, right? So, and apart from that, I think people really need to talk more before they marry. I don't mean on WhatsApp, on one-to-one, with their mahram percent, the right way. It's not like all of us did it the right way.
Sorry. Let me chip in before you continue. Yeah. People need to discuss the relevant things more from these parts. Yeah,
absolutely.
I just wanted to have because when you say
one of the most and one of the most relevant things is, what do you plan to do after the car? That's one of the most relevant questions. Speaking from experience, I don't know. You guys are okay. Ibrahim is married, so I mean that's a humble brag.
I should fine you for that.
For one of the most relevant.
No. See, I think
I'm trying to actually. One of the most relevant things that should be discussed to Allah is, what do you plan to do after nikah? We don't do this enough. I've seen it a lot in our community. You automatically assume because all of your friends, their wives go to madrasa. Once you marry your own wife too, she's going to go to madrasa. That's the best thing. Exactly. That's what you should aim for. But you really need to be sure you should convince her before you marry her. If you are not able to convince her before you marry her, then you should be ready to settle for whatever you agree on. Or you go to somebody else. You get. So, for example, if I want to marry my wife and I know I don't want my wife to work. I don't want it. Personally, I don't want it unless it's at home. I'm giving a life example now. So unless it's within the home, right, or around the home, this is something that we talked about before we got married. If it comes to the stage that I would have to be paying you more than you would earn, I pray Allah will provide me way more than that. Check it. These are the things that you should clarify before you marry. It's not like you now married, you have before saying that person who don't go hospital to do nurse before all her life, 5-10 years. You now marry her, you just want her to her emotion. She's everything attached to that work, and you did not clarify before you go married to her, assuming that she should understand. Nobody understands that way. So then you marry her, finish, and you just want her to magically disconnect from that thing and just go to madrasa all her life. You get. So you need to have full and clear. I don't like saying your goals, your clinical, people complicate the discussion before marriage too, because if you go by like all the complications people lay down, will probably never marry in our life. But like there are some, my generator just died. But there are like some super important stuff. And one of those is, what do you plan to do after marriage?
Yeah. And how do
the things you have in plan the things you have planned for her, you should let her know to it.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I think I also
have
that question
planned for her, you should let her know it.
Yeah.
Right? If she's not okay, you should try to convince her and try to come to. Why are you listening?
I will send you guys a video. There's a video about this.
You should try to convince her.
I'd like to learn from the notes.
Don't cut this part out of the video, by the way. You should try to convince you should try to convince her and let her like have like an agreement. Like very important. So things can change, but it should be based on understanding. So, but don't assume that she'll be okay with that. She's already using the call. She should know now that she go there house. Blah blah blah. No, don't.
That's really profound. I don't think I've heard anyone say it exactly the way Abdullah said it. Although it's not like I missed out on this when I was getting married. Alhamdulillah, I had some of this discussion. And one of the things that, I mean, just like you mentioned walking after the car. I think that was one of the things that she was really, or in my own case, she was really hell-bent on that. This is what I want. You have to. I mean, I have to agree with this. If I know that I'm not going to agree with it, I have to go off. And that was more or less like one of the conditions. And since I decided that I'm okay with it, I cannot now come, 2 years later and say, blah 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 blah. It wouldn't really. I mean, it wouldn't really make sense. And I don't even know what.
Even breaking an amana.
Yeah, I don't know what Allah would take that for on Yawm Al-Qiyamah, and Allah protect us. I also wanted to share something. There's this video. I don't know if anyone of you has seen this video.
And also, one thing, Ibrahim, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
One thing that it's also possible that you agree on some things, and in the long run, you think it might not be practical.
That's also true.
Everything is not ideal. Most times you talk about ideal cases. Well, practical, like reality sucks.
So sometimes we make agreements based on what we think we want, and then in the future we kind of change, and then
so
change is constant.
I'll give you an example. It's an imaginary example, right? So let's say you agree with your wife that she's going to continue working. I'm not using it as an example, like there are like a lot of arguments like that. So, but you don't expect that one day you will need to work and you need to go away from home for 1 week and only come on weekend. Like you don't see that coming. Maybe you are like already doing a work. Everything you agreed on, you've already mapped it. You've mapped it to your work. You've mapped it to how you've said everything will go well, right? Then after marriage, some things change. Let's say you give birth. You have some kids to take care of. You are someone that would never allow nanny or take your kids to all of these things. You might not be someone like that, but let's say you are someone like that. You do not think about all of those edge cases, right? Then you realize that,
software engineer
that we agreed on. You realize that things that we agree on.
Reality.
You realize that things that we agree on might not necessarily work that way again. So I don't have experience in this, but I don't think what you should do is to just say, you know what? Work more. So I think what you should do instead is to like sit down, communicate, explain. Don't don't tell her that you have to do this, you should not do that again. Explain, take her back to what you agreed on, because you have to admit that you agree on that, because women will take you on that. So you have to admit that you agreed on that. Then you have to now bring in like why you think some things might not work. Right now you have to like present an alternative, maybe reduce the amount of work, maybe stop, but you have to bring in something that will compensate for part of what you want to take away, right? But the whole point is you need to conclude your wife is not, as much as you are kowam over your wife, you're like this shepherd, like I said it. So at the same time, your wife is not your subject, right? You still need to like discuss on things. Otherwise, well, if you want to be kowam, you don't want to discuss on anything, you are going to have a very heated home. So if
continue the next 2 weeks, inshallah, so may Allah protect us till then and beyond. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
بإسلامي وإيماني أضاء الكون وزمن. بإسلامي وإيماني أضاء الكون وزمن.